Is it possible that a moment lasting only a few seconds on a phone screen can change the way the world sees someone? Can a single musical choice, selected with intention, give a whole new meaning to a night already full of light and artworks? When a face appears for a fleeting instant, surrounded by flashing cameras and whispered awe, something shifts, not only among those present, but across everyone watching through their small screens. Hello, drama lovers. Welcome back to the Taehyung News channel. That night, Paradise Art Night Frieze Seoul 2025 reflected its usual light. Spotlights danced over installations, paintings and sculptures stood in respectful silence, guests moved slowly, as if part of a living exhibition. Then, in the midst of the carefully ordered event, one image cracked the calm, a frame captured in a brief Instagram story by a man named Kim Taehyung. Instantly, there was an unmistakable tremor, not only because of his name, but because of the way he chose to appear, the way he chose sound, appearance, and the lingering whisper after the screen went dark. That opening is not an exaggeration. It is the preface to a narrative that unfolded not gradually, but in a leap. A star who was more than a famous name, who chose to blend in, to show respect for art, and ultimately to become a bridge between two worlds that often run apart, the world of mass entertainment and the elite world of contemporary art. The short video, underscored by Debussy's Clair de Lune, felt like a brushstroke, soft, poetic, and deliberate. Place yourself at the scene. A modern glass building, well-dressed guests, the scent of perfume and low conversations, and then a presence that could not be ignored. Taehyung walked with a calm that felt almost cinematic. His black suit was understated, yet featured details that kept the eye returning, an unusual cut at the chest, fabric texture that caught the camera light, and a small accessory meaningful to fans, a thin ring on his ring finger, hair slightly damp as if touched by metaphorical rain, a styling choice that felt fragile and strong at once. He moved not as a gala tourist, but as a participant in an ongoing dialogue within the room. The short clip gave us only fragments, enough to spark curiosity, but not enough to satisfy it. He glanced briefly at the camera, wore a faint smile that never felt contrived, and then the music began. On-site spectators filmed. Photographers raised their lenses, and soon the clip traveled from one phone to another, swelling into a digital wave. At the same time, international media started to take note. Photos appeared on fashion portals, analyses of his style and aesthetic proliferated, and conversations that once belonged to the art world now mingled with the passionate chatter of fans. The fans' reaction, ARMY, is one we must listen to. Not only because they are the loudest voices, but because their response gives this narrative an emotional face. Across platforms, comments carried tense emotions, quiet pride, tears barely suppressed, neo-academic aesthetic analysis. They compared this moment to other moments in Taehyung's career, museum visits, photos that display his artistic sensibility, or his indirect collaborations with visual artists. For many fans, this was not merely a celebrity appearance that satisfied curiosity. It was confirmation that their idol carries an inner space, a taste that values silence and detail. Fashion media wrote about how his look fused avant-garde aesthetics with classical Asian touches. Art critics, usually cautious when speaking about celebrities, offered surprising remarks. Some called him a living artwork, a heavy claim, but not baseless. They did not mean mere hyperbole. They observed how a person's presence can create an aesthetic resonance that affects how others interpret the works around them. When Taehyung sat or stood, when he looked at an installation, his attention to space and presence added a new layer to the art experience itself. Industry analysts, meanwhile, watched the numbers. Shifts in event exposure, spikes in online visits, and increased public conversation. They spoke of how Taehyung's name drew audiences who might not normally follow art events, opening doors to new dialogues and, in many cases, expanding the art audience. This is not just the usual celebrity influence, it is a tangible interaction between mass consumption and aesthetic products that are typically exclusive. We must return to the small details that make the moment significant. The choice of Clair de Lune, not a pop song, not a dramatic soundtrack, but a classical fragment known for its softness and melancholic nuance, begs the question, why choose this piece? Many believe Taehyung wanted to convey something unspoken, a mood, an invitation to breathe in the midst of the noise. It was as if he slipped in a whisper, observe, but do not rush to judge. For fans accustomed to reading symbols in their idols' appearances, the choice received an immediate emotional reading, longing, subtle loneliness, a quiet romance. As the night progressed, the atmosphere at the venue changed. What had been a display space turned into an unscripted stage. Photographers sought angles, guests shifted to make room, and some attendees who initially focused on artworks paused to watch how Taehyung's presence altered the environment. Casual visitors, not K-pop fans, commented on the altered mood. There's something different. His presence adds a sensory layer to the works. It is a bold claim, but that evening, many felt it to be true. The viral wave is more than numbers. It is about how conversations transform, from aesthetic photos to debates on what it means for a public figure to cherish art. On discussion forums, people talked about cultural responsibility, about an attitude that invites people to look deeper than surface impressions. There were critical voices, too, questioning motives. Is this all branding? Does a celebrity's presence truly enrich events, or does it glamorize them and shift focus from the artworks to the faces in attendance? Such debate is natural, and it reveals that the phenomenon cannot be read one-dimensionally. Yet amidst analysis and theory, there are human moments that cannot be dismissed. One fan, who managed to record a distant video, wrote in the caption, "I cried when I saw him look at that painting as if he felt the same thing I feel." Others compared the scene to an intense drama, long glances, weighty pauses, music that holds the room. For drama viewers, his manner felt familiar, not because he was acting, but because he gave space for viewers to project their own stories into the moment. This is the power of subtle narrative, a moment that becomes a mirror for collective feeling. We must not forget the cross-cultural connection that emerged that night. Taehyung, in his non-verbal way, spoke to the international audience present. His body language, aesthetic choices, and respect for the works signaled that art is a universal space for dialogue. In an era when popular culture is often tied to consumable trends, that night offered an example of how pop figures can act as unofficial ambassadors, bridging artistic languages. A celebrity's presence opens opportunities for conversation between curators and fans, critics and young audiences possibly encountering contemporary art for the first time. How did the ripple continue online? Hashtags spread quickly. Long threads appeared, not just with photos but with interpretations, short poems echoing the mood of Clair de Lune, reaction clips, and meticulous fashion analyses. Fans exchanged small theories. Some believed the ring he wore had special symbolism. Others pointed out how his hairstyle evoked a character from a certain drama. Still others wrote long paragraphs about how the moment marked personal growth for their idol. Though subjective, these contributions made it feel like the fleeting moment had entered a collective narrative. There were skeptical voices, too. Those who felt the phenomenon was overly romanticized, mindful that this was a paid event, part of an industry seeking exposure. Such critiques are important for balance. They remind us that not every seemingly magical moment is free from practical interests. Still, amid all nuances, one simple truth remains. People respond to beauty, and when a public figure chooses to touch it in their way, the reaction is real and meaningful. Near the end of the night, beyond the flashing lights and media clamor, one closing scene was captured. Taehyung paused in a corner, gazing at a visual piece as if speaking to something unseen. The camera caught his lips moving slowly, perhaps a whisper, and then he left, the room still echoing with footsteps and a trailing melody. For those present, the moment lingered. For those watching through screens, it became an imaginative fragment. Both ways of witnessing are valid. This story's ending is not a definitive close, but an invitation. We live in an era where every moment can become an event, and events are photographed, evaluated, and endlessly reinterpreted. What we saw that night was more than an idol attending an art party. It was an example of how art and popular culture borrow from and enrich each other, and how meaning can emerge from the simplest choices. A piece of music, a swath of fabric, a tiny ring. Now, I want to hear from you. How did you feel when you watched that brief clip? For you, was this an enduring artistic moment, or just a wave of hype that will pass? Did the music and styling speak to you personally, or was it mere aesthetics? Write your thoughts in the comments. Your stories color this narrative. Keep watching Taehyung News for further updates. We will follow the continuing reactions, analyses from fashion and art worlds, and recaps from those who were there. Because behind every short story, there is a long tale waiting to be unearthed, and perhaps this conversation has only just begun. See you again, drama lovers. Stay calm, keep reflecting, and let every small moment lend great meaning to our shared stories.